Recently, I showed off a Coleco mini arcade version of Galaxian. I think that mini arcade version had a couple of really cool features to show off, but it wasn't the only one that this company made. So today, I'm going to show you guys Pac-Man. Welcome to Rerez. When I was younger, my mom first introduced me to games by playing Pac-Man with me. She taught me exactly what I had to do, and the memories of this game have stuck with me ever since. I'm pretty sure everybody out there knows what Pac-Man is. You're Pac-Man, you eat dots, and you avoid ghosts unless you can pick up a power pellet, and then you kill the ghosts. Really, the game is pretty simple, and this version from the Coleco Mini Arcade series, well, it's pretty much the same idea, only there's a couple of changes that arguably make it a little bit more difficult. The maze in this version of Pac-Man is very similar to the maze that you can find in the arcade version and pretty much every other version of Pac-Man that's ever been made. The difference, though, is that the way that they've actually kind of set the maze up with the very thin walls. For some reason, the walls feel longer and narrower vertically, but fatter horizontally, and that kind of creates a distortion while you're playing the game and kind of confuses you while you're trying to traverse the maze. I know it seems like a minor complaint, but for somebody like myself who's played Pac-Man since I was a kid, it changes the feel of the maze and artificially inflates the difficulty. I am a fan of the way that this box is designed. It's got a really clean look and pretty much everything works as it should. However, there is one problem with this setup, and I don't know if it's because of the age of the unit that I'm using, but to be fair, the joysticks on this thing, well, they really don't work. Since this is a portable version of Pac-Man, I was expecting the controls to be restricted to up, down, left, and right, basically the only movements that you can perform in the game, but it's a little bit more free and loose, and because of that, it kind of gives this spongy feel while you're playing the game and doesn't really feel that good. Unlike Galaxian, which feels a lot more responsive, these controls just feel a little bit weak. This version of Pac-Man also has a head-to-head mode, which is pretty much a two-player mode. One person controls the right joystick, the other person controls the left joystick, and you basically play on the same field collecting pellets. It's really cool, but to be honest, I prefer the single-player mode a heck of a lot more. Something else that's pretty negative about this game is that the sound effects are terrible. Here's just a sample of what this game sounds like. It can make your ears bleed. The mini arcades take 4 C-cell batteries, but Coleco came up with an idea called PermaPower. PermaPower batteries are basically hollow plastic tubes with 2 metal ends. One of the batteries hooks up to an AC adapter from the back, and essentially that AC adapter will power any Coleco mini arcade that you hook up these batteries to. It basically just replaces what batteries would have done, and it's kind of a smart way around not actually having an AC adapter input on the back of the machine. I guess they must have saved money doing it this way, but I really don't know. The creators of this game had a lot of limitations simply because of the size of this machine, but one of the things that I think limited the game the most is the VFD, the vacuum fluorescent display. Everywhere on the maze where Pac-Man can go, so must the ghosts. Plus, a dot must be there for Pac-Man to eat. So the designers of this game pretty much had to figure out a way to have all 3 things occupy the same exact space. So basically what they did was the ghost is the largest object, kind of like a cloud overlapping a bunch of smaller objects. Then, Pac-Man is the head of every single ghost, and on top of that, each ghost has 2 eyes. One eye is actually a dot that Pac-Man can eat, and the other one is a dot that you really don't see in any other instance other than a ghost overlapping that area of the screen. Basically, this version of Pac-Man is the only version of Pac-Man I know where Pac-Man can be seen inside the ghost. It's kind of weird, but it works in a very strange way. On top of that, if you look close enough at every single dot, it really is just an eyeball for one of the ghosts, so you'll see a little pupil to the bottom right. Plus, another thing that's unique to this version of the game is that because of the limitations of this display setup, every single ghost has eyes on the bottom of their body. This is one of the only versions of Pac-Man that's like that, since every other version has ghosts that have eyes just above, near the top of their heads. So that makes this version of Pac-Man a little bit of an oddity compared to all the other versions of Pac-Man that have ever been released. The mini arcade version of Pac-Man isn't better than the arcade original. I have to say that simply because I don't think the gameplay is as sharp, and because of the controls being a little bit loose, they don't really flow that well. So in all honesty, I wouldn't prefer to play this one compared to the arcade. But if you're out there and you want to play a unique version of the game with 2 players on the same field, this is the one to try. But for everybody else, stick to the arcades.